Hi y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm your host Steffi Dawn, and I hope you find this video very encouraging, as I find it so amazing when I tell a story to people. Also, since you're here, might as well just subscribe to the channel, whatnot. You might find some worship videos, but you might find some videos about vlogs, random rants about how to spread the gospel. Anyways, let's get started. So I guess the title of this video, as you saw, was my testimony on how God freed me from severe ADHD and also depression, etc. So that's insane, and I will get into that like now. So a little background is I was born and raised in a Christian family of 5 kids. I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and yeah, I love my family very much, all very close. And so yeah, I've loved the Lord since I was very little, and I've always wanted to do missions since I was like 5 or 7 years old, you know. And growing up, looking back, I've always had ADHD like symptoms since a child, and I remember thinking about it, like I was super like hyper and creative, which is normal. But as I got older, it definitely got worse. It definitely became not a fun thing anymore. It wasn't something that was a superpower, as I thought that was for a long time, you know, trying to cope with ADHD. But anyways, I didn't take any medicines growing up or even when I was a teenager, because it's like, I'm a really creative person. I love making music. I mean, aspiring artist. And I just did not want to dim that or anything like that. I hear medicine to do that. So I personally didn't take any. Plus, it wasn't anything I guess I needed to take medicines on. Anyways, but as I got older, I think about 15 years old is when I really started to see it in a negative sense. Because I know ever since that, about that time, I would go in public and I'd become really overwhelmed really easily by my surroundings. You know, I was always aware of everyone in each aisle, strangers, whatnot, my family, wherever they are. And I just couldn't help it but pay attention to things around me. One, I know I am actually a very self-aware person, but also it was to an extreme level. And if I can describe what ADHD is like, it's like, imagine you have like 5 TVs going on with different TV channels, and then you're trying to read, but yet you're also trying to hold a conversation. That's what it feels like. It used to feel like in my brain, because you have like all those layers going on, and then you can't focus, but yet you try to then you hyper focus on things randomly, like, I don't know, use my spin so much time excessive over something that's pointless. Anyways, that was my life for a while. And about 15 to 16 years old, it just kept getting a little worse and worse. And so I think at that time I believed I'm gonna live like this all my life, and it was so stressful. I would become once in a while become so overwhelmed with, oh my goodness, what do with my life? And I couldn't also control my emotions exactly all the way, because I was so like up and down, up and down. Anyways, so about 17 years old, that's when I was like, okay, something has to change, because it's even worse. I can't focus. I can't on anything. Anyways, so that's a little backstory of what it was like living with it. Honestly, I mean, I made do with it and I got by, but it definitely, I remember just last year though, I'm now 19, I think, yeah. So a week before God set me free, I remember it at its peak. It was so bad. I mean, I couldn't do anything. And I'm running a photography business at the same time, and I'm just like, ugh, all these things. I'm just like, this is crazy. And not to mention also the previous 2 years between ages of, I think, 17 to 19ish, about 2 years, depressed pretty much, very down, because there's a lot of stuff going on. It's like crazy, and I was just like depressed, and I never walked away from God, but there's just a rough patch at that time where I wasn't talking to God and I wasn't really seeking him, but yet in my heart I still wanted to follow him. There's no question about that, but there's still like there's something there. Anyways, last year we started going to this new church when we moved this new area. And a little background about this church is that it's like a full gospel and a spirit-filled church. Anyway, so we were barely coming to this church for like 2 months-ish. and they had a guest speaker coming that was going to be speaking on deliverance, which is cool. And I was like, yeah, deliverance, we see in the Bible and it still happens today. Demons getting cast out, Jesus did it, disciples did it, etc. And like healings today, etc. Like I was kind of pumped about it. I was still a little bit like, I haven't really seen it at the time in my life in person, but I knew that happens. I was like, yeah, let's see this. Um, but yeah, I was actually surprised though, because the majority of what he talked about actually was that Christians can have demons or be influenced. Now, I get what you're gonna say, because I was the same way. I was like, no, that's not true, because Christians, although he filled the Holy Spirit, there's not possible. That can't happen. Well, anyways, so I was like really like, well, we'll see. Anyways, even though still I was very like very particular, and I mean, I guess a little religious at the time, but I was very like, well, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'll still go for the altar call, but I mean, I had trust that if something's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, but I was really like, it's gonna have to happen, if it makes sense, because I'm not gonna be like messing around with my emotions or giving in, if that makes sense. Anyways, so yeah, so after the day was almost over, he calls an altar call, like, does anyone want prayer for deliverance or just in general? And I was like, let's go. So I go to the front and I tell this lady privately about how I want to be free from ADHD, and I just was like, you know what, let's ask for this, because it's been horrible the last week. Again, like the week leading up to this, it was really bad. Anyways, so I was like, I want to be free from ADHD, and she was praying for me, right? And I've experienced things before. I've seen things before. Like, I've experienced God's presence so strong and all these things before, but this was just, I cannot explain what happened. But I started becoming really angry feeling, which is odd to me because I'm not an angry person. I do get it at times, but I was like, I'm not an angry person, and became very like annoyed. I felt annoyed. I was like, why? Why am I annoyed? And she's praying for me, and I tell her what I'm feeling, and she says, is there anyone you need to forgive? She walked me through some like repentance and forgiveness, etc. And it was so weird. Just everything was happening. Things were happening way too fast, like in my brain. And then suddenly I felt like God's love so strongly. Like, she was telling me how God loves me, which is true, but it was just different because it was so different. And I remember something about ADHD. She had me to kind of like renounce ADHD / the spirits involved, you know what I mean? Like, just going through the whole thing, like renounce the benefits. And I actually had, a long time ago, had made ADHD in a way almost, not an idol, but to cope with ADHD in the past, I had thought it was a superpower. And so I had to let that go, if it makes sense. And I was just going with it. I was like, whatever she instructs me, whatever, I'm gonna try it to see what happens. I had faith that it could happen, that I could be healed, as well as with depression. Anyways, so I renounced like those benefits and those things in my brain with the ADHD. Like, I don't want it, because before I welcomed it in a way, I was like, well, ADHD is cool, even though I don't know what to do with it. Like, man, I can do things other people can't do. So I renounced those things, and I can't even tell you what happened next. The next thing I know, I'm on the ground. And I've seen people slid in the spirit before, like, but I've always been the type that's not gonna happen to me. And I've also been the type where I'm like a little bit like, are you sure that happens from God? Because I know, so I don't know why I'm so particular, but sometimes I'm just like afraid that things can happen based on our emotions, but it's not really a move of God. That was a fear that kind of was trying to stop me from going for prayer for deliverance. But no, I found myself on the ground and I couldn't move. I was like, whoa, that just happened. And I was just crying, bawling my eyes out, and thanking God, and his presence was so strong. And I just remember him speaking to me like, you're going to be okay, and that you're healed. I remember God speaking to me these things, and I'm on the ground, and I was just overwhelmed, and I didn't know what's going on. Anyway, so I get up, eventually, and I thought I was on the ground for like 2 minutes max. Apparently, I was on the ground for 30 minutes. Because, there was a huge line of people for prayer, and I was one of the first people in line. And what happened was when I got up, there was like no one there anymore in line. I was like, what? And I also saw the clock, and there's 30 minutes past, and then my family was like, whoa, you've been on the ground for like 30 minutes? Like, what? No way. And I didn't believe myself. So I sat down for a while during the service, and the service went late. It was actually really cool. People around me are getting delivered, like, left and right, and demons cast out, and like this one girl screaming, and as they're casting out the demon, and all the things, and I'm just like, these are Christians, bro. What's going on? It completely changed my thinking, because it happened to me, and I'll sing it. I couldn't deny what was happening. But anyways, off that's sidetrack. Anyways, so I got up, and as soon as I got up, I did notice something different. Things are quiet. Like, it was hard to explain. And I didn't exactly know if that was just myself tricking myself, my emotions, or what. Until the next day when I discovered, like, coming days, like, that I'm actually healed. It was amazing. Anyways, and that same night as well, before I get into what I experienced after that night, I also was freed because I thought it was done, okay? I thought it was done. But then someone comes up to me or something, has a word about something about depression or whatever it was. And yeah, they started casting that out too. And I fell to the ground for not so long. I was just on the ground for like a brief minute, and I started laughing. Like, the joy of the Lord, I don't know, it has filled me, from being like this depressed, and like, and I remember like it was so crazy, dude. Like, the whole night was crazy. And I just felt so like joyful and actually excited, because prior to this last 2 years I was having like suicidal thoughts, but I never acted upon anything. But it was annoying because I was a Christian. I was like, why am I having these thoughts? I should be having joy because of Christ in me. But there was just a lot of stuff going on, and I had to deal with that for like 2 years, and depression for 2 years. Anyways, God, he freed me from that too. So ADHD, depression, negative thoughts, anger too, because I didn't realize how much anger I had. He freed me from all those things in like a single night. And I remember when he freed me from the depression and those thoughts I was having, it was so refreshing. It felt like a waterfall of just God's presence, his love and joy flowing in me. And I remember him telling me that, like, I won't deal with it again. I remember him saying, you're free, my daughter. I love you so much. And you won't have those problems again. And I was like amazed. And I truly kind of could feel God's love again, because I guess for so long I had, well, I don't know. I can't explain it. Like, for so long I had, I guess, just accepted everything, the circumstances, my mind, and really it's all my life, and it was just a matter of time of how long I could take it, So God is amazing. God is so good, and he can free you guys too of anything, healing, because God has healed me of other things too, physically, like autoimmune problems when I was younger. It's insane. Anyways, so the next couple of days is just mind-blowing. I cannot forget the next day when I woke up, because it was late. We went to home like 11. Oh man, it was crazy. Or later, I don't know how long the service went. And so I was too drained, because I don't know, every time, I think when you experience a deliverance like that, you're just drained. So I didn't notice anything really, but the next day I woke up, and it was like as if the birds were chirping outside, and there was classical music playing, because everything was so peaceful. For the first time in my life, I'm not hearing multiple layers of thinking or voices in my head. For the first time in my life, I can control what I want to focus on, what I want to do for today, and not get distracted or feel overwhelmed. I remember that same day I was like, I'm going to go to a grocery store. So I went to a grocery store because I had to see like what is the difference. And oh my goodness, I was crying in that grocery store. It may seem like something so silly, but dude, like going in a grocery store and being able to focus on what I'm doing, not everyone else at the same time, and being able to not be overwhelmed by the sounds and everything going on, and to have such peace. I will not forget that day either. And it seemed like every single day got better too. I think it was so drastic that it was like a whole new way of thinking, so I did have to get used to it, if that makes sense. I wasn't used to everything. Um, I wasn't used to just being so peaceful. And I wasn't used to being able to work so seamlessly. Like, I don't know, for those who have ADHD can relate, but like when you're working in an environment, a coffee shop, or whatever you are, you know, sometimes work, because it's boring, we get bored so easily, it's physically painful in your brain. It's like someone on a chalkboard with a fork or something. I don't know why, even though you're trying to work and do ordinary day things, like I think our dopamine is so like small and stuff that it runs out so quickly, and that's why we have so many crashes up and down every day. And I didn't have that. I worked my full shift at this coffee shop, no issues. I was so excited. And now it's been a year, over a year, a little bit. This happened in March. I was free March 24th of 2024. It's been amazing, and I've never had any ADHD symptoms since then. And the only time I have ADHD-like symptoms is if I have caffeine, which I have to tell you something about this. For those who have ADHD, we know that most of the time we have caffeine, it calms us down. We don't become like hyper, like it actually calms us, versus other people it makes them hyper or it keeps them up. But we can go to like, it's not that we can't go to sleep, it's not like that, it's just like we're very calmed and we feel normal for that. But now caffeine does the opposite effect. For the first time in my life, when I have caffeine, it makes me hyper, and that's the closest I feel now to having ADHD, is when I have caffeine. Obviously I don't have ADHD with that, but that's the closest thing I can describe. Okay, this is kind of ADHD. Anyway, so yeah, and then I haven't been depressed. I mean, obviously life is there's ups and downs, and there's, of course, you're gonna experience depression or seasons of grief or like things like that, which is nothing compared to the very dark time I was in for a long time. So yeah, that's how Jesus healed me and restored peace to me and restored my thinking. And honestly, now that it's been a year, I have learned a lot about connections with ADHD and also trauma, because I honestly had a lot of child trauma and a lot of stuff, you know, trauma-wise. It makes sense because it turns out like those ages links very much like when I had it getting worse and worse was with trauma. I'm not saying all ADHD is linked to trauma, but it seems like it is linked to emotional trauma because of everything. Just think about like the layering of voices and not focusing from everything, and it makes sense why we're not able to regulate our emotions. Yeah, but now I can, and God healed me so much from emotional wounds and trauma at the same time as the ADHD. And as soon as those were, it's like that gives an opening for like a spirit or something to mess with my brain. So I'm not sure exactly how that all works, but that's just some things I've kind of picked up on and stuff for the last year. But yeah, I'm completely free of ADHD, and I'm completely amazed by God. So that is my testimony. Hopefully not too long. But yeah, and I have a message to you guys. I hope you really were encouraged by this, and my message to you is, guys, whatever it is that you're going through in life, no matter if it's something very simple like a stressful job or stressed about, I don't know, something very simple, or to being stressed about something big, just know that it's gonna be okay. I've been through so many things that I'm like, only God could have got me through that. The reason I'm still here is only God could have done that. Only Jesus and He can fill you guys with joy. It is possible. The impossible is possible with God. Honestly, like, no doctor, nothing could have done anything for me compared to Jesus Christ. And He can fill you with peace. That He gives a peace that only He can give, that this world cannot give or even take away. And don't be ashamed that you're even worried or stressed or overwhelmed. Just give it to God, because He cares for you. He cared for me, He cares for me now, and He cares for you now. And I believe that God can heal you from anything. I believe it can heal you from like your eyes seeing, if you're blind, or if you have so much emotional pain. I believe God can heal you from ADHD. I believe God can heal you from all sorts of stuff, physically, emotionally, mentally. I just already said physically, but get the point. So I've seen God move in my life. He's also healed me of problems with different foods like gluten and dairy. He's also made my eye better, because I'm technically blind in this eye, like legally. And He is doing amazing things. So just my encouragement to you guys, that God is a healer and He's good, and that there's no other name but the name of Jesus. So that is my testimony today. Yeah, and it is very crazy, and I hope that, if you have any prayer requests, actually, you can put them in the comments, or message me on my social medias, like, what's it called? Instagram. I have them linked in my bio, if you want to private message me for a prayer or whatever it is. But enjoy, guys, and God bless.